Got a head of fiery hair and a turbocharged backpack.
Do y'all remember Johnny Test? Because I know I don't want to. For those who aren't from North America, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about here, so let me dive into it. Johnny Test was a children's sci-fi cartoon that aired back in the early 2000s. It aired for 6 seasons up until 2014, which was far too long than I thought it would be. But it was semi-popular and would even be renewed for a revival, which currently resides on Netflix. But how good was this show in its first few seasons? Oh boy, where do I begin? Johnny Test takes place in your typical urban town where we have our main character Johnny, his trustworthy talking dog Dookie, his 2 genius sisters, and his 2 strict parents. The show likes to juxtapose all these characters. I mean, Johnny's extremely immature for your main character that just wants to goof around. Then you have the sisters who are on the same IQ level as Dr. D and yet cannot even get over their own crush. And the parents are just strict, I guess. There's not much chemistry with them, but everything about this family is chaotic. I mean, for God's sake, the town is literally called Pork Belly, and the main antagonist is a fat, white, stuck-up rich kid who uses the power of gold to get over his grudge on Johnny. There's no other way to describe the show. The episodes themselves aren't anything to cry over, but for the time, I would say had a pretty good idea of the complete wackiness they were trying to go for. A decent amount of episodes had typical tropes like close-ups of acne, body odor jokes, etc. Just stuff that only little kids might find entertaining. At least with this show, it was an older time in animation, so stuff like this wasn't too recognized, which is why shows like Teen Titans Go and Total Dramarama get completely shafted nowadays by anyone with an input of on the internet. In the first episode, moles try to take over the world, and Johnny ends up saving them with a camera, right? And we get a pretty good idea of how the show will run, as I already said. Johnny is again childish, stubborn, and Dookie is somewhat logical, even though he's a dog, but will get baited into doing anything for the most part for a tender piece of meat. Boy, how times have changed. If I could manipulate anybody to do whatever I want with a piece of meat, I would literally be the president of the United States. There was a set of episodes where they were referencing Pokemon, of course, and they basically go into a game filled with Pokemon-like creatures. And not just for this, for these episodes, of course, but the show really likes to use the go outside trope a lot with the parents, of course. And even though I knew at the time that the animation was, pretty bad, for the time, it was pretty cool seeing shows referencing Pokemon. God, but this guy being called Blast Ketchup, good lord, I'm cringing. The scenes and bits are so absurd and the humor is god-awful, but it's certainly nostalgic to at the very least check out these episodes all these years later.
Oh, you'll complain about what a ripoff it was, and I'll have to listen to your endless whining, and that's not fair!
You're a pessimist, you know that?
No, I'm a realist. There's a huge difference.
I watched too much of this show, man, god dang. However, I do think the reboot is probably some of the worst the show has to offer. As I've already said, this type of content isn't necessarily bad, but definitely is oversaturated at this point. There are a ton of shows that basically do the same thing, making people over the age of 6 cringe watching jokes like this. It's pretty clear that Netflix gave this series a chance for the sake of money, but the episodes that I've seen aren't awful. Maybe there's some type of appreciation to the revival of the show, but the reboot cannot hit the same level as the original show did. Times have changed, and people kind of don't want to see this kind of stuff nowadays. And other than kids watching it, people might check it out for nostalgic, of course, like I did, but there just isn't much there, to be honest. I think around the age where Adventure Time and regular show came out is kind of where the comedy bits of cartoons kind of changed, and changed for the better. I want to point that out. Both the shows were respectively wacky and weird, but it was in a different way that didn't feel like gross, and you didn't have to put in all these fart jokes and stuff that really made it unsettling for some people. So while Johnny Test, is fine for its nostalgic, right? It kind of suffers with the whole just over-the-top wackiness that nowadays just isn't good, and why I'm not really going to be checking out the reboot. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you've watched the reboot, let me know if the show is really worth continuing, because there just doesn't seem to be that much point to watching it, in my opinion. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and I'll catch you later. Peace.